Hi, I'm Shannon from Homemade Lovely. In this video, I'm sharing how to choose the right white paint for walls, cabinets, and trim in your home. Choosing the right white paint color for your home can be really tricky. That's because not all whites are created equal, and not all whites are the same. So first of all, you might be wondering if white is even the right color to choose for your home. Well, that depends on your lifestyle. If you have little kids or dogs that seem to make a mess just by breathing, you might not want to choose white paint for your home. But if you really love white, you can always make it work. You might also be wondering if white walls will make your space look bigger. The answer is yes. That's because of the reflective value of white paint. It will bounce around the light a little bit more than a darker paint, making the walls recede away from you in your mind's eye and seem like a bigger space. So while you might not be able to make your room actually larger, white paint might help it feel bigger. If you've ever painted a wall white, you might have wondered why it looked pink or yellow or green, or not just the bright white that you wanted it to be or the cozy white that you wanted it to be. The reason for that is that there are very few pure white paints. Usually they're made up of other colors, which means they have undertones of those other colors in them. Undertones in white paint are generally a good thing because they make the white paint not look too stark or too bright or harsh. But the undertones do need to be considered as far as your whole home color scheme goes when you're choosing a white paint. So, how do you discover the undertones of your white paint? Well, you can't do it in isolation. What I mean by that is that you can't do it most often by just looking at the paint chip. You need to look at the paint chip with something else. So, there are two tricks to finding what the undertone of your white paint color is. The first way to tell the undertone of a white paint color is to look at it on a swatch with other colors. So take a fan deck or a paint chip from the store that has multiple colors on it and look at the very bottom one on the swatch. That will tell you what the undertone of that paint color is. The second way to be able to tell what the undertone of a paint color is, especially a white, is to hold it up to a plain white piece of printer paper. The contrast of the white printer paper and your paint chip will show you what the undertones are in your paint chip. So, how do you choose the right paint color for your walls? Well, those undertones have a lot to do with it, and how you want your home to feel. There are warm undertones and cool undertones. A warm white paint will have undertones of yellow and red, warm colors. A cool white paint will have undertones of blue, green, gray, or cool colors. Which white you choose will partially depend on how you want your home to feel. Do you want it to be cool and crisp, or do you want it to be warm and cozy? When choosing your white paint color, you're also going to want to pay attention to the lighting in your space. Whether you have natural lighting or a fluorescent lighting will play into it, but also the type of natural lighting that you have as well. A southern facing room will feel warmer just because it will have the sunlight in it or near it almost all day long. So you might want to pick a cooler white just to offset that yellowy color. A north-facing room will always be a little bit blue or gray and feel a little bit chillier than a southern room. So you might want to choose a warmer white paint color so that you can offset that blue-gray chilly feel in that room. A room that has east or west exposure will be cool or warm different times of the day, so you can choose what white paint color you think looks best in that space. Another rule of thumb to follow is that you'll want to bring home the biggest swatch that a store has available to you. The bigger it is, the more easily you'll be able to tell whether you like that color in your space or not. Another option is to get a 9x12 sheet of paper or Bristol board or something like that, or even bigger, and paint your color on that using a tester sample. That means you can move it around the room to see what it will look like in different lights and in different shadows and things like that. You could always paint the tester colors right onto the wall, but then it's a little harder to see what it looks like in different lights and in different spots in the room. So when you're choosing your white paint color, you also need to choose the sheen. So for walls, you're going to want to use a sheen that works in the space that it's in. What I mean by that is that the higher the sheen, so the glossier it is, the higher the sheen, the easier it is to clean, which is good, but the higher the sheen, it also shows off imperfections and dents and scuffs and scratches and little warps in the wall and stuff like that more than a lower sheen paint will. So for kitchens, you should probably use semi-gloss or gloss paint. Living rooms and dining rooms, you can do an eggshell or a satin because they're not quite going to get as abused as a kitchen would, for example. If you have a hallway that gets a lot of traffic or is rather narrow, go with a higher sheen paint like a semi-gloss so that you can wipe it down and it won't get as damaged as easily. Kids' rooms also would benefit from a semi-gloss. Rooms like master bedrooms, for example, that don't quite get the traffic that a hallway would, for example, you could use an eggshell or even a flat finish in that room, and that would work really well. So, how do you choose the right white paint for trim? Well, for trim, you can actually just buy the base white paint off the shelf at your local paint store. It's the pure white that gets used to mix all the other colors into. Often that will work quite well for trim. It's really easy to go back and grab some more should you run out and need to do some touch-ups. However, if you have a really warm color scheme for your home, you might want to use a white for your trim that is tinted with a little bit of a warmer color. So for trim, the sheen that you want to use is a higher gloss sheen. So semi-gloss or even gloss for trim will help it not get as scuffed and marked up as if you used a flatter paint. So how do you choose the right white paint color for your cabinets? Well, the same rules apply as far as warm undertones and cool undertones goes. So, do you want your kitchen to feel warm and inviting or cooler? That will help you to determine the color that you use in your kitchen. Also, if you're painting both the walls in your kitchen and the cabinets in your kitchen, you don't have to paint them the same white color. You can paint them with slightly different shades of white for a little bit of depth and variety. This can also be accomplished by painting them in two different sheens. For example, on kitchen cabinets, you're definitely going to want to use at least a semi-gloss, if not a gloss finish, so that your cabinets can put up with the abuse of daily opening and closing all the drawers and the cabinet doors. So if you do a gloss or a semi-gloss on the cabinets, you can then do a semi-gloss or even an eggshell on the walls, and just the difference in the sheen will give you this nice subtle difference in texture and depth as well. Another question I get asked is, what is the most popular white paint color? Well, the answer to that varies depending on who you ask. So below, and in my blog post, I have listed several white paint colors that would look great in your home. I've listed a few pure whites, a few warm whites, and a few cool whites. So you can take your pick based on which brand you like best. So hopefully that has been really helpful for you in learning how to choose the right white paint color for your home. If you have any questions, please ask them below. I will happily answer them. And I look forward to seeing you next time.